What is up, guys? Rick Smackus here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today we've got some brand spanking new Destiny 2 news, courtesy of the Bungie weekly update that has just gone live, unveiling official information. And so, let's get started. First things first, yesterday Bungie director Luke Smith released a massive director's cut update talking about the future of the game and made some huge announcements, including the fact that universal infusion is going away. Guns are going to have a lifespan and a point to which they won't be able to be infused beyond. So definitely, if you haven't seen that information, check out the video linked up above. That's really important stuff. And just before the TWAB went live, Luke Smith again tweeted out something huge. So here it is. We will be disabling the artifact for power-enabled PvP, so Iron Banner and Trials, until we can implement a power cap feature. This cap will allow us to weave artifact and power pursuit together while preventing unbound power growth in PvP. He continues to say somewhere down the road, but before we implement the cap, we're going to talk about what effect power has on combat in PvP. Think deep dive numbers, etc. All of that is way more info than Twitter can take. See you soon. So, huge change, and now it's just your gear score that's gonna matter when you are playing Iron Banner and Trials. And by the way, that does confirm without a shadow of a doubt, power is going to matter within Trials of Osiris. So you will have to do some leveling up. You will have to do some grinding. And again, some PvP players still aren't gonna be thrilled by that. But the fact that your artifact power isn't going to matter is a huge deal, and that puts a lot of emphasis now on pinnacles. If you've been ignoring nightmare hunts and night falls and stuff like that, get grinding, get doing those activities, because that is going to make a difference when it comes to combat in those activities, especially when we're focusing on Trials. But it also means that the guy that spent 8 hours a day, farming bounties, going in and out of lost sectors, he's not going to be dump trucking everyone in the Iron Banner. So it's going to be a lot more even-footed going forward into next season. So huge change there. And actually, this wasn't always the case. This is a Reddit comment from yesterday when Cosmo said artifact power will matter in Trials, and the community was not happy about that, and they decided to change it just today. So kudos to them for listening. But let's move on to the changes announced in the TWAB. Firstly, there's some subclass changes. So let's start here with Warlock Melee. So what they're doing to the Warlock Melee is that currently Titans and Hunters melee faster. So you can get off 2 melees as those 2 classes before you can with a Warlock, putting Warlocks at a distinct disadvantage in a melee duel. But starting next season, the basic melee range of the Warlocks is going to be extended by 1 meter for a total of 5.5 meters. So now they're still going to melee slower, but they're going to have the advantage of range, and we'll see how that plays out. Moving on from there, Titan Barricades are actually getting some big changes, with Bungie citing the reason being Trials. Because it's of course 3v3 elimination, but you'll be able to revive teammates, and Titans being able to put up a tower barricade and get a super safe revive off was, I guess, a pretty big issue when they were testing it internally at Bungie. So Barricades are getting some changes. Firstly, they're actually increasing in total health from 500 HP to 600 HP. But to counteract for this, there's going to be some specific counters to the barricade. So the following weapons will now do 30% more damage to barricades: snipers, grenade launchers, linear fusions, machine guns, trace rifles, and any weapon with anti-barrier rounds. So that seasonal mod is going to matter quite a bit when doing Trials against some Titans. But also, the following now have a 60% extra damage boost to barricades, shotguns, and fusion rifles. And Bungie says you'll see yellow numbers, so almost like a precision shot, when hitting a barricade with a counter weapon, which always feels good. So again, it gets more health overall, but way more things are going to do way more than they're doing right now and provide that easy counter. Definitely shotguns and fusions doing 60% more damage than they're doing right now. Like, if you are being pestered by a Titan really rocking those barricades, like, that is definitely something you're going to want to throw on to counter that. Moving on from there, Bungie also talks about several different one-shot abilities that are getting changed. Firstly, we have the Titan Shoulder Charge. Bungie says they've reduced the auto-targeting angle by 50%, saying that it might sound like a lot, but Titans could previously auto-target to make an instant 90-degree turn. We also adjusted the lunge distance to 5.5 meters for both targeted and untargeted lunges. Targeted lunges were previously 6 meters, while untargeted were previously 4.5. These changes make for a more consistent experience when lunging. Moving on, for the Hunter's weighted knife, they say that they've reduced its tracking significantly and created new tracking tech that will make the knife more faithful to its initial throw trajectory. And I know a lot of people love the weighted knife. It's really fun to watch people go off with it, but you would actually see clips of people like not even hitting anywhere near the body or hitting someone in the toe, and it would give them a headshot. So I think maybe some work there was necessary. Moving on, the big one, guys, the Handheld Supernova for the Warlock. Now, Bungie does state that part of Handheld Supernova's strength lies in pairing it with the Controverse Hold exotic gauntlets, which are also being tuned this season, and we'll potentially hear more about that later. Now, they say that our data indicated that even without Controverse Hold, Handheld Supernova needed to be adjusted, and here are the changes. So, firstly, increased activation time by 0.6 seconds, reduced hold time from 3.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds, reduced range by 20%, tightened horizontal spread of bolts by 25%, bolt explosion now does self-damage, and reduced explosion radius from 3 meters to 2.5 meters. They do say in our playtesting we found the product of these changes is an ability that is still incredibly strong, but now has a risk-reward ratio to compensate for its power. Now, something really interesting they say almost as a footnote, but it's very important, is the fact that because they're tightening the bolts, which makes it a less spray and pray ability, they're actually increasing the concentrated damage at range. You're going to be able to put more damage on a specific target rather than just spray down like 3 guys when you turn a corner. And that means it's actually better against supers. And they say to compensate for this change, other elements in the middle of the Voidwalker path are being buffed, including the Nova Warp Super, which has now been increased in damage resistance, a longer duration, and a reduced blink cost. So Nova Warp is better. Now, Bungie actually continues here with some general subclass tuning, saying we've made changes to a number of subclass paths in an effort to tighten the gameplay balance. For example, Stormcaller top, Striker bottom, and Arcstrider bottom have remained dominant in PvP for multiple seasons now, constantly beating out all other paths in both win rate and average efficiency. These paths have also ranked among the top PvE paths in terms of kills per minute. We've adjusted these paths and others to bring them closer to the middle of the pack. On the other end of the spectrum, paths such as Voidwalker bottom and Nightstalker bottom and Striker middle needed some love, so we're taking steps to lift them up. And they actually have not talked about specifically what those steps are, so we're likely to hear about those fully at a later date. They do say, for the sake of transparency, we take no joy in nerfing abilities, weapons, and armor that we all love to use. We wish the answer was to keep the game balanced and fresh, always to buff the underperforming elements, but such an approach leads to power creep. So essentially, if you just constantly keep buffing what sucks, the thing that sucks is going to be previously the most powerful thing, then you buff that above what it was originally too powerful to be, then you have to buff everything else. Like, it is definitely, power creep is a real thing that developers need to kind of worry about. Oh, one more thing. Bungie says, oh yeah, and Hunter Trimp mines are sticky again. Stay sharp, Guardians. Ooh. Now, moving on from there, we have some additional information. The Twitch Prime rewards have reset, and here they are for kind of the next month, and there's some pretty sweet ones. The petting chicken is a classic, so if you haven't done that, especially if you're a newer player, those are some great rewards you can get your hands on for linking your Bungie.net account to your Twitch Prime account, which is pretty simplistic to do. Alright, and lastly, we have some cleanup information that is going to be important for a lot of people out there. So, Season of Dawn, Bungie says, is officially ending on March 10th. Additionally, players will have until 9:59 a.m. PST, so 1 minute before the reset on March 13th, which is when Trials begins, the Friday, to claim their Season of Dawn rewards on their Bungie rewards page, with a deadline to purchase being 11:59 p.m. on March 31st. So Bungie rewards has been a thing for a while. If you've been doing stuff this season, you likely have some Bungie rewards ranging from the ability to buy a pin to an in-game emblem. Like, make sure you're checking your rewards page, and March 13th is fast approaching. You don't want to check and be like, oh wait, I had this a brand new emblem I could have redeemed and I just wasn't paying attention. So maybe just go check that page. Additionally, even though the Imperium Foundation ended and we reached the 7th goal, it still will reset as normally next week. So you will get another generated Fractaline dump that you can donate. Obviously, you don't really want to donate unless you're farming time loss bounties, and you can still level up obelisks with it to potentially get rewards there as well. So that is going away, and there will be no more polarized Fractaline on March 10th, but you still have one more week of doing that stuff. Now, Bungie also mentions that on March 10th with the new season, the tower travel loading times will be returned to normal. Thank goodness. The Imperium Foundation inflated those like crazy. The Prime attunement buff will once again show up on new characters after the previous character deletion. The Pigeon and the Phoenix lore will become available again to those who've earned the lore, and the empty Solstice of Heroes gift message from Tess will no longer show up. Guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, found this informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.